The night out. I'm sitting here in a hotel feeling really down with nobody to talk to and figured coming on here anonymously might be a good way to get some helpful advice. Maybe someone will have a suggestion that can turn this all around. Here we are, 2 days into our honeymoon. Things have been tense over the last week prior to us leaving. We got married a couple of weeks ago, but our honeymoon wasn't for a couple of weeks. We have a good life, we have a ton in common with each other. I feel I married my best friend, which I had previously thought was impossible. We share many interests, we trust each other, we have our own interests, we have similar goals, beliefs, a busy social calendar with friends and family, vacations, etc. We have set plans together and are actively working towards them. We purchased a home a few months ago, got married, and are now supposed to be enjoying our honeymoon. What I don't understand is the week prior to leaving she became very up and down. She would lose it over tiny things that had nothing to do with me half the time, but then I'd get the brunt of it. Let me state a couple of quick, important facts before continuing. We both took new jobs with considerable pay increases over the last 6 months, jumping from $90,000 to $170,000. We purchased a home, well under our income level, bought her a car, and paid for an expensive wedding on our own. The point I'm making is that we make a good income, but with the recent big hits we are at a low point temporarily. I'll also add that I have excellent credit. I've not struggled with finances for close to 8 years. I did go through my young, irresponsible period in my late teens, early 20s. She, however, was making far less up until recently. I got her a job with a customer quadrupling her income, and really struggling. I mention all of this because there is a lot of financial stuff she brings up, but given our current state it just doesn't make sense. The night before we leave is when the biggest issues started occurring. 3 days ago, I had a couple of expensive suits in my suitcase and it was very packed. I had set aside a third suitcase thinking that we would need some extra room for souvenirs while on our trip. Her argument was that it would cost us an additional $50 round trip to take a third bag. Ultimately, we ended up having to take 3 regardless because cramming it all into 2 caused one to be over the 50-pound weight limit and consequently making it cost the same to take 3. However, that said, she wanted to stuff more into mine and just use 2. I tried insisting numerous times that I wasn't comfortable with it and that I really preferred to bring 3 so we had room to bring things back. Eventually, she ended up asking me why we even got married and suggesting that we get divorced, followed by saying she understood why my prior wife left me. I was floored. Yes, I had married in my early 20s, rushed into it with someone I never should have, and it ultimately ended in a divorce, but to throw that at me the night before we are leaving on our honeymoon. I left the room after that and, long story short, ended up being the one to apologize for being picky about the suitcases and offering to help her with anything she needed. I'm not a pushover normally, but since she was unwilling to apologize or come to me, I couldn't think of any other way to try to salvage this trip except to be kind to her and see if that turned things around. It eventually did. We leave for our trip and it's like being on thin ice. Everything angers her and this just isn't her. Even her father is confused, worried about her. Regardless of what happens, I am the one she takes it out on. We had an okay day our first day. The next, we spend the day at our hotel. She is working for a few days before we leave for our cruise. Her company has an office here, and we go out in the evening. One thing I failed to mention is that she's freaking about money with everything. We are fine, cutting it a little close this month as we drained reserves to pay for the house, wedding, honeymoon, car, but we are okay. We paid all of our bills early this month so we wouldn't have to worry while we were out of the country. During the day while she was at work, I got the hotel staff to put a fridge in our room and I went to the grocery store to pick up food for the next 3 days. Spending $80, I figured $26 a day for breakfast and lunch was a pretty good way to go. She comes home and gets upset that I spent that much. Again, while we are lower with our reserves, we make enough to make a dollar amount like that trivial. It doesn't make sense that she's blowing things up like this. Today after work we went to this area she had been told about. We walked about, she got a blister and got pissed. Then got angry because she was wearing a jacket and hot because it was going to rain. It was 90 degrees. I have no clue because she didn't wear a t-shirt under. I take her to a store and we buy her a t-shirt. Problem solved. Back to enjoying our honeymoon, or so I hoped. We find a nice little restaurant with a great happy hour menu. Long story short, when we are leaving, they give us the bill and it's screwed up. The menu wasn't all English and we apparently misread some of it. It is what it is and honestly, it's not hurting us, so we move on, but she's on fire again. Now we are walking back to the car. I should add that I suffered a traumatic brain injury from a very high-speed motorcycle accident many years ago. I had massive bleeding which has permanently impacted my memory, and unfortunately, I forget a lot of things if I don't write it down. As we are walking back, she suddenly says she forgot where we parked, then goes on to say how she hates that she has to be the only one with a working memory and starts giving me crap about it. I actually was fairly certain where to go to, but she insisted on going another direction. After a bunch of walking, we find I was correct. Irony, but sad that it had to go that way. We get back to the room and she's just got this horrible attitude, so I just leave her be. I notice, however, that the hotel she paid for a few months ago, apparently, she hadn't actually paid for. We had started a joint account back then and the money was there, so I know it was just an honest mistake, but she starts going nuts, telling me how irresponsible I am, how she'll live on her dad's couch again, and how I'm running us into the dirt. Again, I have had zero issues financially for many, many years. I look at her, suggest we not toss blame at each other, and tell her I'll figure it out. 5 minutes later I sorted everything out. We are in great shape with plenty and nothing financially to stress about. Had to make some transfers between accounts etc., hoping we can just get back to trying to enjoy our honeymoon. Instead, she berates me, saying again how irresponsible I am, how I'm screwing everything up, which is ironic because again I've been the one that's been in great fiscal shape for so long while she made poor decisions that ran her into the ground, and she's in a better financial position than she has ever been in her life now. I just look at her and go, look, I don't know what to do. The issue is gone. I broke it down in Excel to show her everything. We are okay, you can relax and enjoy now. Let's stop focusing on this stuff and get back to celebrating our marriage together. I kept asking her if we can just try and turn this around etc. She ultimately starts telling me she'll just leave, have her dad pick her up back home, she'll take a taxi to the airport. What? She leaves the room but without her stuff, so I knew she wasn't actually going to leave. But seriously, she came back and I even tried to hug her just to turn things around, but nothing. I just don't know what to do at this point. Nothing I do makes her happy since we've left, except for her one good day the first day out here. She's constantly angry about something, constantly digging into me and saying hurtful things. I'm getting really sad. Here I am wanting to celebrate our honeymoon, being married to this woman I love so much, but I feel like I am the only one trying. I'm the only one showing any kind of intimacy, and no, I'm not referring to physical things. To be frank, I really am not interested in being physical with the way she is being anyway. We have 12 more days to go and I'm just hoping somehow this is going to turn around. I want to reflect on these days as happy memories for many years to come, and right now it's just not happening. Some bad stuff popped up a few months before we got married. We went to her counselor together, who she's been seeing all her life. The feedback I've gotten from her pastor, father and counselor, she's very close to all of them, is that this is very abnormal. She has gone through some very hard stuff in the last few years. Lost her mother, and she's been abused in past relationships physically. We had a period of about 2 months that was very bad and then it calmed down. Now things are getting negative again and I'm just running out of ideas on what to do. She's done some incredible things, made huge life sacrifices for others, so I know she has a good heart. As an example, she left in her final year of college at a top 10 university where she was on the dean's list and also a soloist in the choir. They are the #1 vocal university in the US, to sit on a couch and take care of her mother day in and out for 9 months while she watched her pass, a mother who treated her horribly growing up. Anyone who can make a sacrifice like that has a huge heart. There is just something going on and I don't know what it is. Annulments are not even an option in my state. She has been physically abusive. That was part of the 2-month thing I mentioned, but it's gone away after some counseling together. I honestly just think she's ill or something. I'm a very dedicated person too, so the thought of just leaving isn't something I even want to consider right now. She does have a lot of wonderful qualities, and I'm just praying this is temporary and that we can get through this. She's been at work today and will be home soon, hopefully in better spirits, crossing my fingers. I sent her this text today though. I love you. I want to celebrate this honeymoon together. I was to see you happy. You deserve this break and I want you to enjoy it. Let's not talk finances anymore. I'll keep a close eye on them and make sure everything is okay. You just try to focus on enjoying yourself and knowing the finances will be taken care of. I don't know how you are feeling tonight, but if you would like to do something when you get back, let me know now and I will try and find something interesting to go see, sightseeing. I'll just relax when she gets back and we will see what happens. I also sent her counselor a huge email regarding what Uptown mentioned. Well, here we are 2 weeks after the honeymoon. It got worse, physical, then better. I was on eggshells a lot throughout the honeymoon, but it wasn't filled with an overabundance of conflict. That's changed since we got home though, and so has my patience. Hicks, I'm actually that way the majority of the time. I tell women when I meet them initially, I will never dominate you, but it better not come my way either or we will have serious issues. She's thrown divorce threats around a bunch since we've been married, and I finally told her yesterday, stop telling me what you are going to do, just do it. You want a divorce? Go file. I can't control you and I'm tired of hearing of all these things you are going to do to me. I've told her I'm tired of the explosive outbursts over the small things, and especially since most of which she is guilty for just as often. We have missed date night the last 2 weeks because she's blown up, and I've told her that I am not going into public with her acting like that. To be honest, I'm getting very tired of all the negativity. We have a pretty damn good life. She's 23, she has a very nice, large house in an upscale neighborhood. She has a low-mile, highly modified car that she wanted. She has an incredible job while many are struggling to even get one or are stuck in a dumb job that pay poorly. She's going back to school in winter like she wants. She can afford to go out and have fun, eat out, and she has a husband that is pretty patient and loving when she's not trying to attack me. Yet she claims she has such a horrible life, tells me she hates this life etc. She gave it up all for me, years ago. When she wanted to go back to California to finish school and we were very new, I told her I couldn't promise we would stay together if she went that route, but that I would understand. I don't really do distance. That said, she blames me, saying she stayed for me and now has this miserable life. What the hell? There are so many people struggling so hard in life. It's really unfortunate, but she doesn't have a worry and lives quite well and is working towards her goals in life. What is the problem? Today she tried telling me I'm a complete failure at work, that I'm not making what I should be, and that the projects I'm working on with my customers are a joke. I bring in 6 figures and closing contracts with some of the largest companies in the world, and my executive leadership gave me a glowing review last week. What the hell? A week ago, she threw a fit about her car. She said it was too big for her and unpractical. That one of us needed a practical car. So, I said okay, we can look for something as long as it doesn't cost more and we don't take a big financial hit. I've spent 2 entire days taking her all over the place looking at cars. I told her we had to stay under $32,000. Remember her financial fit, which she's thrown again since we came back, even though we are quickly recouping from everything already. She's found a couple that are front runners and quite nice. Both fit the budget and make sense. But then today at the Audi dealership she keeps pushing hard for a new Audi. I told her 1, it's not practical like she said she wanted, and 2, it's well out of the budget right now, maybe in a couple of years. But it's a perfect example of the hypocritical stuff I'm talking about. She throws a fit about our finances and lifestyle, but then a week or 2 later tries to convince me to spend another $20,000 plus on an impractical car to replace the one she got 4 months ago. Today I tried something. I said that we need help, that this isn't healthy how we are fighting constantly and over such tiny things. I then asked if she would start working together with me to get some help so we can turn things around. She threw a fit, said she wouldn't have another shrink look at her since she's already seeing one, who by the way she has refused to go to since we returned. After all of this, she blows up again, and after 2 weeks of daily hell I just lost it. I told her she can say all the hurtful things she wants, it doesn't hurt anymore. She can threaten me all she wants, I don't take them seriously anymore. I told her to stop telling me what she's going to do and just do it, whatever it is. I'm sick and tired of hearing these empty threats. I told her she hurts the people closest to her. I told her that I'm tired of being the only one willing to try. I told her that until she's willing to put effort into this relationship, that I don't care what she has to say about anything. I also said that I'm tired of the excuses. I said she makes excuses for her behavior and it's always something new. It was her bad job at Starbucks, then it was the wedding, now it's her good job, and her life. I said that everyone has to deal with life, that there will always be things that are not ideal, but that there are people dealing with far worse. I told her that she needs to stop complaining about everything, stop making so many excuses, take responsibility for her life and start living. She ended the night throwing tons of insults at me and telling me we will just be roommates now. Guys, I'm struggling here with a few things. 1, this is my 2nd marriage and I don't want to fail again, especially so fast. 2, if this marriage doesn't work, it will significantly damage my faith in myself to carry on a good relationship or a marriage for that matter. 3, I'm 32 in a few months. I want 5 years or so with my wife to enjoy before kids, but women my age need to have kids or the risks go through the roof for birth defects. 4, I'm a Christian, though my vent session above probably isn't the greatest example, and I'm trying so hard to make this work. I really don't believe in divorce. I believe that if I'm willing to give up, I can never truly tell someone that I will stick through life together for better or worse. I'll just be another quitter like the majority of marriages in this country. Another update. Today was a tough day, but I ended up telling her about BPD. I basically told her it was something I had been reading about quite a bit, and this really hit home. I told her that I wasn't attacking her, just trying to understand what was going on and to find a way to improve things for us. I had asked her in the email I sent to read it with an open mind. Apparently, it really hit home for her as well. She immediately purchased 5 different books on it and read a ton while we were apart the first half of the day. One of the books was from a BPD who recovered, and it's their life story. She said it was so common to hers that it was eerie. She's been very apologetic, starting with telling me to just leave her and that I don't deserve this. She's sarcastic or looking for sympathy sometimes, but she wasn't this time. She truly meant it. She said she feels horrible now seeing what she's been doing to me, that she doesn't understand how I could love her after all of this and why I haven't left yet. She openly has admitted to doing some of the stuff most of her life, and that she didn't realize what she was doing until now. She's also shared some other very honest but tough stuff to hear with me. For one, she said she actually doesn't like bonding, which was shocking to me. She has had more of an appetite for it than I in the past, so it blew me away. I am a very giving lover and focus on the person I'm with. Consequently, I usually make her orgasm, but she says she feels too vulnerable when that happens and it scares her. I think because of past experiences she needs to work through some stuff before she will enjoy it more. She has still said, however, that she wants to have a regular physical life to at least ensure my needs are met there, and that she really likes the affection afterwards too. So, on that note, while not what I want to hear, I think it's a workable situation. Regarding the BPD bit, she's reading actively, she is incredibly remorseful, and it's not the kind of pity-me stuff, it's genuine. She has also agreed to get treatment, whatever it takes. My hope is that the mix of her now awareness of it, what she's been doing, her remorse, she really does have a good heart. I just feel she needed to see what was happening, and willingness to try that things could improve immediately. Not perfect by any means, but I think we can start to see improvements. Additionally, she said she was worried she was mirroring, but I asked her, do you like X? All were answered yes, and all are things I love too. I think we do have many things in common. The mirroring, I told her, I think was done differently. She initially agreed on everything I wanted to do. Now I got a little upset with her when this was happening and told her I wanted her to have a voice. I wanted things to be equal, and right before the marriage it completely changed to everything had to be her way, etc. She acknowledged that, and I am hoping we can get back to treating each other like equals. Another very interesting thing. We have never been able to discuss major conflict issues without her exploding. We did all evening tonight and we talked about very difficult stuff. That's promising as well. I can tell she feels horrid for me and even some of her family members. She's a little scared because she studied psychology at a top 10 university and knows that this is a tough thing to treat, but she isn't using this as an excuse to be the way she isn't denying it. She isn't projecting it on me, but rather trying already to understand it better and get help, so I'm hoping for the best. It's nearly 1 a.m. and it's been an exhausting day, so I apologize for my sentence structure. In fact, the last few posts have been pretty bad, but with everything going on I'm just a bit frazzled. We found a psychologist that's highly recommended and known to treat BPD. We will be scheduling something tomorrow with him. As for me, since she's willing to put effort into this, I'm willing to keep trying. It gives me hope. Let's just hope she keeps it up. I will do everything I can to support her through this whole process, including getting some help for myself. Update: she finally found a PhD psychologist who is well known in the area for treating this. The psychologist said she wants to start with DBT immediately. She had another physical outburst about 3 weeks ago, literally smashing my face while I was lying in bed in the dark, and I ended up with a bunch of cuts on my chest and a numb face after all was said and done. I told her right after that I was done, going to file in the morning. After going back and forth, I told her that if this occurred once more, any physical attack, we would at the very least no longer live together immediately. No attacks since then, but we will see if it lasts. I've also been seeing a counselor. I don't think there is much they can do for me, as I have done plenty of reading now, and while I'm aware of what is going on and why it doesn't make it hurt any less. The counselor says that she can start trying to teach me some techniques once my wife starts her therapy, so I'm learning what techniques she is and how to support her with them. Some days I've been feeling a little encouraged now that she has someone, but mostly I feel pretty down. Really is a bummer that 3 months into my marriage there is zero intimacy, not just bonding. Outside of her I have a fantastic life, and I wish there could be a few positive things she added to it. I've been trying to do nice things even though she constantly picks me apart. Anytime I do something nice she finds a way to attack it, or she tells me I'm just doing nice things to make her feel bad. It's tough to do kind gestures when you feel like this, but I try at least every other day, and it just seems to add fuel to the fire. She's told me going back to school would make her very happy, so she's starting next month. That said, the counseling for her, she insists on seeing an out-of-network counselor in addition to the psychologist, and her schooling is another unexpected $11,000 a month. She wanted a new car because the Camaro we got her was too big and not practical, as she puts it. I've asked that we bump down to a car somewhere around $15,000 or so at least for the next year while she finishes school, to help offset some of the significant expenses she is incurring, and I only get hell for it. I'm not one to keep track of who gives what, but I tried to mention that her expenses are triple mine and that I'm trying to be supportive, and I'm simply asking her to be understanding and willing to make some temporary concession, but I'm again just the big bad guy for trying to be fiscally responsible. Every other day I want to give up. I know I'd be so much happier without her. I try so hard to make her feel good, special, and wish I had a spouse who actually appreciated some of it. Oh, to add to all of it, I also found out about a month ago, during a very calm discussion, that she hates bonding. Before we were married, I couldn't keep up with her and had told her that physical was important to me. She completely led me on, only to tell me after we are married that she's always hated it. Not just with me but with anyone, even though I'm a very giving lover. I always wait for her to orgasm first. She says that when she does, she feels too vulnerable. Bottom line, I'm supposed to look to this person to meet my physical needs the rest of my life, and I just found out she essentially lied to me until after the marriage. She told me she wanted it so much because she thought I'd be more interested in her. Was I not a Christian, I'd leave in a heartbeat, but unfortunately my faith pushes me to keep trying. She's making some efforts even though she says she's only going to get me off her back, but I'm trying to remain positive. I have told her that if at some point we decide this is how we are going to spend the rest of our lives, that I am finished. I cannot live like this, and she shouldn't either. Oh, and on one other note, she gets mad at me because I talk to her family and hang out with them often, but she doesn't. She says I'm taking them from her, but I've told her many times she just needs to actually call them or plan something. She doesn't, but then blames it on me. I feel like such an idiot. I really wish I had known all of this beforehand. I would be single right now and very happy. The most ironic part to all of this is that before I fully give my heart to someone, I typically tend to analyze things. Some might call that cold-hearted, but I just don't want to put myself into a relationship that could be unhealthy for both of us long-term. Cancer runs in her family big time. I was scared before we got very involved because I knew I'd just die to lose someone I loved dearly 25 years down the road. Her mother passed in her early 50s, and the thought of my children also going through this sounded terrible. That said, I finally decided that spending as much time as we got married to my best friend, someone I could experience a love and life with that wouldn't compare to anything else, was worth the very potential heartbreak down the road. The irony in all of this right now is downright evil. Her physical episodes are based on triggers. I say or do something that to most people wouldn't be an issue, but to her it is something else entirely. She starts escalating quickly, and then it ultimately sometimes leads to physical outbursts. It's an immediate emotional reaction based on a trigger. If I'm not talking to her, it's not happening. She doesn't sit and think I'm going to attack him, etc. To be quite honest, I know she loves me, but she's completely out of control of her emotion and has a very distorted view of the world based this disorder. As terrible as she's been to me, I feel bad for her and hope she can get better whether I am in the picture or not. I can only imagine how overwhelming all this is for her to accept and face too. I'd absolutely hate to learn I had this. Some people are just nasty and choose to be that way. That isn't her. It doesn't justify her actions either, but there is a difference. We'll see how long I last. It's only been 3 months. There are people who have been married to BPD spouses for over 25 years. There is no way I could handle that. In fact, if she wasn't willing to get help or stops, I'm out. That is the only thing keeping me in at this point. Few years later, long story short, we got her back into school a while back. Things did get much worse. She got very physically abusive, and I was bloody and bruised a number of times because I didn't want to fight back and hurt her. The good news is that it's been over a year since the last physical violence, and she appears to have learned not to go there. Seeing positive progress is always motivating. Her time in school, however, was very difficult. She told me often that our marriage had to take the back seat and that we were not her priority. School was. She often lashed out and said very painful things, and as I mentioned, was physical at times as well. I was amazed that we made it through all of this, but as of June 2015 she was a graduate, and we were to have our marriage back. During her time in school, I think we both developed unhealthy habits. We grew accustomed to not seeing each other or doing anything together. I often played video games a lot as an outlet. When she finished, we had some of that to work through. I've gotten much better, but sometimes I catch myself playing a game too long. Fortunately, I'm aware of it and conscientiously addressing it. I told her when she finished that I really wanted to focus on us, to build our relationship's foundation. Within short order, she told me she wanted to go back to school because she was unhappy with all the free time and felt she needed to get her master's. This caused some obvious angst, as I felt she was immediately looking for something other than us to focus on again. Fortunately, she started to get some promotions at work, and that seemed to alleviate that need to some degree. The challenge, though, was that sometimes I was playing games too much, and when I wasn't, she would be glued to her TV shows and I couldn't get her to do something with me. While all of this was tough, I told her, and myself, that we had some stuff to get through after all we'd dealt with, and that we had to be realistic and understand it was going to take time, patience, and understanding to get through it. This really started to help me, and I started just looking at each day as another day. There were good ones and bad ones, but the bad ones were just that, a bad day, not the end of the world. We booked a big vacation to Europe, a Mediterranean cruise out of Venice. Leading up to that, she got into Beachbody. She was excited because she didn't like her work that much. She was doing big things, but she wasn't passionate about the type of work, and this she felt had the potential to make money so she could work from home. I told her if she made nothing but it was what motivated her to live healthier and eat better, that I was all for it. This, however, became her new focus, and again I quickly jumped to the back burner. She would stay up until 2 a.m. most nights working on this. She wouldn't ever come to bed with me or do anything. She would make dinner, but we'd usually eat separately. I started to complain and said, "Hey, I want to be supportive here, but I don't want to trade school for Beachbody. Can you please maintain some balance and fit me in so we can work on us too?" She got very angry at me for that and said I wasn't being supportive, and that this was something that made her very happy, so I shouldn't say anything. Well, I kept complaining, and there was a lot of fights on the topic. Then we had vacation. Vacation was amazing. I felt like once you took away all the distractions we had prior, that we found ourselves. We had fun, we connected, we were reasonable with each other. If we disagreed on things, it was bliss for 2.5 weeks. Then we came back and she immediately dove back into her Beachbody stuff. Again, we fought. I told her I wanted to spend time together and she got mad. She would say that I played games, so I was being hypocritical. I told her I was aware of the game issue and had tried to be much better at it, and that I'd drop it anytime if she wanted to spend time together. She always seems to throw something at me like this instead of addressing the fact that she's making a mistake. Then she often tells me how everything is always her fault while she's busy going down this huge list of everything I'm doing wrong. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, she started finding some time for me and I started to feel better. I took a new job and am making significantly more, and ironically, I'm working with the organization she's always dreamed of working for. As a result, I set up a meeting for her so she could see about getting into their organization. She's a rock star in the workplace and now has a stellar resume. I told her that she's in a good place right now, so to take time and find the right job within this organization, and that it will come since she has the degree for it and now is being networked internally at a high level. I also told her that I'm okay with her taking a pay cut to go there now that I'm doing better. Recently, before anything bad started happening, I'd been feeling more and more motivated to express how I feel to her. Dozen roses with a candle and a card that I poured my heart out to her on when she returned from a long business trip, giving her frequent words of affirmation and trying to find new things we could do together. When we started dating, it appeared we had all this stuff in common, but now she does nothing but beach body or watches TV. I've never been into ranges, but we started going to the range together to try something new. I enjoyed it, but she gave up on it quickly. I've continued to do it even though she won't go with me. I've tried to get her out to do the silly little Pokemon game. I've never been into Pokemon, but I figured it'd be a silly game we could go walk around doing and maybe have some fun. No, again, we used to go to this exotic car meet and have a lot of friends there we haven't seen in a while, so I tried getting her to come out with me to that again. Nope. We have a bike now. She at first told me she loved riding with me. Personally, I love it because she's normally glued to Beachbody, Facebook, so I get time with her arms around me. No phone, just the two of us out riding, enjoying the beautiful scenery. We have had amazing weather and I've asked if she would like to go for a ride many times. No, every time. I'm going somewhere with this, just wait. So, we are on our way to church one morning and she's talking about another couple we are close with having issues and how she's going to let the wife vent to her later that day. We know them very well and I have a feeling I know what's wrong and share some of it. Now let me caveat here, we haven't been arguing a whole lot. I've been doing a lot of thoughtful things, giving lots of words of affirmation and making many attempts to do things with her. I'm literally feeling that things are improving quite a bit. Sure, we have plenty of work left, but we are making progress and I know we'll get there. Well, she blows me away by responding to our conversation about them going, well, they are doing way better than us. I go, how did you and I even become a part of this? Is this some competition? I ask her why she would say that and she tells me that we have nothing in common and don't do anything together. Now at first, I get livid. I don't let it out, but I'm fuming inside after everything I've been trying to do and how she's just repetitively shot me down. I hold it in and think about it while at church. I think to myself, she likes creative artsy stuff, and while I don't, I do like photography, and we've talked about doing a class before. Why not do that? I also reflect on the fact that we both played soccer growing up extensively. So, we get out of church and I suggest we do one of those. Her response is, those are your ideas, things you like. Okay, so I ask her, well, what do you have in mind then? And she quickly responds with, I don't know. Okay, I'm getting pretty angry now. You complain. You shoot my ideas down, which I know you actually do like to some degree, and you aren't willing to provide any yourself. She tells me we have nothing in common. I look at her and go, what do you mean? When we were dating, you told me how you were really into cars because of your brother and dad. We've always had fun doing the events with our friends, track days, going for drives with the top down, rides on the bike, etc. That's one thing right off the bat. She responds with, no, I just said that because we were dating and that's what you are supposed to do when you are dating. I looked at her and said, no, that is not what you are supposed to do. You are supposed to be honest about what you like, don't like, and go from there. I look at her and go, okay, look, I've tried getting you into a number of new things. I'm trying new things I've never been into, and I even do them even after you say you don't want to. What bothers me is that I don't control you. You are free to do whatever you want, but all of your spare time you either watch TV or do beach body stuff. You do nothing, and I feel like you are upset about that and taking it out on me, which is unfair. I want to do stuff with you. I've been trying. So, she says, fine, just pick something and I'll do it. I say to her, no, if I do that, you'll say it's my idea and give me a hard time over it. I want you to be a part of choosing what we do. She just says she doesn't know and walks off. Later, I'm talking to my buddy who's in that relationship that's having some issues, and one of the things he complains about is that they only have had slept together 9 times in 3 months. I laugh because we have no kids and they have a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, and 2-year-old, and they are doing more than double what we get. Then I jokingly tell the wife, she had cooled off at this point, honey, we really got to pick our game up. With the kids, they are crushing us in the sack. She gets furious and says to me, I'm sorry, I don't like bonding. I'm not attracted to you and I don't like my body, even though she's gotten herself into fantastic shape. Now let me caveat, I'm not a 10, but I know I'm a good-looking guy, and her statement doesn't make me feel unattractive, but what does hurt is my wife saying that to me. I'm a little out of shape, about 10 to 15 pounds, but I still get plenty of attention when I'm out and about, and she's been in far worse shape than I am now when I've been super fit, and I never said anything like that to her. Also, when we were dating, she made a big deal about how I wouldn't put out enough, and now she again reaffirms she hates bonding. I'm upset because basically she lied about a lot of stuff while we were dating. Anyway, as she leaves, I start thinking and I tell her that I'm sorry for my tone while we were talking. I tell her that if we think about it, we were arguing about spending time together, which is awesome. I tell her that we should both laugh at ourselves, be thankful that we were arguing about that, it could be much worse. Recognize we both love each other very much and that when she gets home, we can pick something to start doing together, class or a sports league. Her response to me floored me. She says, yeah, we both love each other, but I think we can agree that neither of us is in love with the other. I say, wait a minute, I am very much in love with you, what are you talking about? She then goes on to tell me that she isn't in love with me, that she isn't sure she wants to work on the marriage, and that she doesn't even know how to for that matter. All the little stuff is little stuff, but at this point I'm struggling with a few things. You aren't attracted to me. You want to work on this marriage, so clearly, it's not that important to you. You aren't in love with me. Wow. Okay, so after some back and forth of her basically explaining I don't support her, manipulate her, I go, okay, if you think you'll be happier without me, we should probably get an official separation for 6 months. Let's talk when you get home about logistics. She comes home and basically says, look, I just want to have kids and a family with you, and I feel like by you saying we need a couple years before we do that, you are putting off what I want. My mom died in her 52nd, so I need to have kids soon or I'll miss out on a bunch of their life, and I want a family with you, but you don't seem to care about what I want. She says a lot of other stuff that doesn't make sense. She feels I manipulate her with purchases, so I ask her to take us through it, and we go through the last 5 major purchases in the last 3 years, and she go, well, yeah, you've been good, but before that there are unresolved issues I can't forgive you for. I say to her, you beat me bloody and bruised because I wouldn't fight back, and I've forgiven you for that. How in her world is you unable to forgive me for some vehicle purchases 3 years ago, especially when you have 5 since that were great? I basically tell her that before kids I need to know we have a strong foundation and have invested a lot into each other so that we can model what a good marriage looks like to children. She goes, okay, great, things are good, I'm sorry, etc. I know I'm all over the place here, so much is going on and I feel like I'm starting to lose my mind. Long and short, we have a heart-to-heart. She says she didn't understand where I was coming from and says she now believes I understand her and that she's excited to work on us. That her mom got sick a week from today 5 years ago today and it influenced some of her emotion, and that she's sorry. Okay, so, less than a week later, we spent the day with her family, which is something she said she wanted more of, and we are doing it again tomorrow. After leaving her family's, we go to the store. She was looking at a couch online she liked, and I told her I'd seen one like that I could show her, so we go look at it, and her response is, you thought I liked this? This isn't what I want, and I don't know why you thought it was based on what I said. Okay, I just thought I'd show it to you because it sounded somewhat similar. Then we go look at overhead canopies. I'm doing a track day on September 3rd, and the family is coming for rides and want to make sure they have shade from the sun. I point out to her that we have been leaving the dog outside and it's been in the mid-90s, and that until we find a permanent solution outside, we could even use this thing out there for a bit to give him some more shade, at least when it's really hot. She goes, no way, then adds, I won't have my yard looking tacky like that. So, she's been making these rude little jabs, been short with me since we left, which she was the one ready to leave. I'm feeling confused as I've done nothing to her, so I go, okay, well, we can leave. As we are headed to the car, she goes, so what do you want to do? I tell her that she seems irritated with me and that I don't know why. I feel uncomfortable and maybe we should just head home. Instead of apologizing or explaining, she just goes, fine. We never do anything together. It's pathetic, really. I tell her we do just fine when we are being respectful to each other and that I felt she was being unnecessarily rude to me tonight. She asks how. I explain and I can tell she understands, but she just blows it off and goes, yeah, well, we can't do anything together. Our relationship is a disaster, etc. We are sitting in the driveway with the top down and she starts raising her voice significantly, so I tell her that if she's going to do that, I'm pulling into the garage and shutting the door so the neighbors don't have to hear it. She gets pissed, saying I'm rude. Then she goes on this binge and goes, you know what? We can't do anything together. It's not worth being unhappy. How long do you try before giving up? She says we both said we shouldn't get married before we did. I don't recall this. Then immediately after saying this, she tells me she frequently thinks about how her life would be if she said no to me when I proposed. At this point, I'm pretty much done. I tell her that I think she wants out. She keeps bringing all this stuff up and ultimately, I think she just wants out but doesn't want to be the bad guy. I tell her that I believe in marriage and I won't give up. I'm not going to end it if that's what she's trying to get me to do. I tell her that everyone in this country gives up on difficult things too easily and many don't take marriage very seriously. I do. Those vows mean something to me, and if I give up when it's tough, what does that say about me? She goes, so what? You will just be miserable forever. I tell her no, it means you fight for your marriage. Even if it's hard, you try, you work through it, and if you both do that, you'll get there and you'll be stronger than you were having gone through it. Anyway, I'm just confused at this point. I've sacrificed my needs, wants in our marriage for years for her. I've supported her in everything she has wanted to do. I've tried repeatedly to do things with her and to have quality time together, but she complains that we don't. Her recent statements are screwing with my values, as frankly I want a woman that can appreciate a good guy and a good life, and she's putting thoughts into my head I'm struggling to deal with some of the things she is saying to me. I try to do all the immaterial things with her: quality time, words of affirmation, support what she wants to do, and on the material side, we are in the top 3% income-wise. I don't say that to boast, only for perspective, and have very little debt, so we have the means to do a lot of the enjoyable stuff and no financial stress. I want to have a family. I want to have kids in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm 34 and don't want to put it off much longer, but I absolutely can't have kids with someone like this who changes how they feel about our marriage every 6 months to a year. Just to be clear, I recognize having children with her is bad, so I won't go do that to fix things. I know it would only make things worse. Just feeling really down right now and out of options. I've got most of my life together in a pretty good place. I just have a wife that's severely broken and is blaming her unhappiness issues on me instead of owning them and dealing with them. She literally told me I shouldn't spend my life unhappy with her. I told her I'm happy and that if I was single, I'd be happy. I don't need another person to make me happy, nor do I expect them to be responsible for my own happiness. All that said, this hurts a lot and it's impacting my work a bit, which really bothers me. I don't know how to keep myself in a good place right now, nor how to deal with her. If she can recognize that she has some major issues that don't involve me that she needs to work through to find her happiness, and she'll stop blaming me, using me as a crutch that is keeping her from her happy, I know things could turn around. Issue is, I highly doubt she'll do that. When she's unreasonable with me, I'm pretty firm with her. If she's rude, I'll tell her to her face and state that I am not going to hang out with her if she's going to keep that up. If she starts shouting at me, I'll tell her that I'm not going to communicate like that and walk off, etc. Heck, I've gone as far as to very bluntly tell her on occasion that something is her own issue and she needs to take accountability for it and stop blaming me. I can see, because I've stayed in this relationship and tried to be supportive, how I can come across as a doormat, but I've often been very firm, direct with her on things as well. My comment: you're choosing to be abused at this point. That's your choice, but don't you dare put a baby in that woman. If you hand a baby to a physically abusive, emotional train wreck, then you're just as guilty as she is for what happens to that child.